Hello, everybody. Megazard X here, and recently, within like the past week or so, some things been really bothering me, and I've just been kind of seeing some stuff here on Twitter here and there, though, and it's just been kind of getting underneath my skin a little bit. Recently, a few weeks ago, we had E3 and everything, where Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, everybody else was able to drop their news for the latest gaming content that is about to come out for the rest of this year and a little bit beyond into 2020. And overall, I was really impressed with Nintendo's conference. They were nailing stuff out of the park. I'm really looking forward to Luigi's Mansion 3, Link's Awakening. They had some really good games like that. Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, the Black Order is looking really good though. Everything was really good, and I thought Nintendo's presentation overall was pretty solid compared to the other competition. But one thing that I thought that was really good, but then after they mentioned some stuff in the treehouse, it started getting a little trivial, is Pokemon Sword and Shield. I liked all the concepts about it. We're actually able to have some free camera movement and everything though, but Masuda just saying one thing actually just kind of snapped and put the whole Pokemon community out in outrage. So what am I talking about today? Sit back, relax, grab your popcorn, get your juice, because man, this one, it just might be a long one. Okay, so what I want to talk about today is one of the hottest topics that is going around the Pokemon community, and that's the whole hashtag bring back the national dex. And as a quick side note, technically we didn't have a national dex in the Alola region though. So I mean, this is technically not our first time actually going without a national dex though, but all jokes aside, I do understand the frustration from all the other people, because many people I notice have been saying, hey, well maybe I wanted to keep going through these multiple generations with this one Pokemon, because maybe it was the last Pokemon that my friend had before they passed on, or maybe that was something that my father had, and it has some very good sentimental value though. But the one thing to understand about this whole entire thing is, while we may not have every single Pokemon within the Galar region, it doesn't mean that they're not going to show up within future games, which that's what the Pokemon company was actually managing to say. And that's one of the major points that they try to point out there, because technically they said it's not out of possibility, because with the whole thing that they're trying to do is Pokemon Home, they're trying to release that software, which technically won't come out until 2020. So technically, even when we play the games in the fall, you technically still wouldn't be able to transfer any Pokemon from your previous games into Sword and Shield until later on at some point in 2020 that we don't even know as a concrete date yet. But looking at all of the comments and the frustrations, I can see why some people are upset. And then many other people have mentioned that, hey, there's actually coding within the Pokemon Let's Go games, Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. So they're like, well, how come we can't just they can't just port everything that they had on the 3DS straight to the Switch? In which, in a way, they could, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it would be 100% complete, because even with the Let's Go games, even though they put all the Pokemon in there, even though they weren't going to be used because it's Kanto only, that was just some very basic stuff, and they had even a placeholder Pokemon there to actually hold them in place though. But they had to go through and update all the animations, the textures and stuff, and from the way how Game Freak seems to be approaching this, it makes it seem like, hey, they're actually trying to focus a bit more on the story and some of the new elements, and with this actually being the first new generation coming to the actual home console / handheld, so a hybrid, so their first attempt at a home console game technically for a new generation. It seems like they're trying to put more of their assets into other fields that I actually kind of want to see it within the story, and a little bit on the aesthetics of the game. We'll talk about graphics in a bit though, but more so with the aesthetics and the way how it looks, because you can't say that this game does not look clean compared to the other previous iterations. Pull up your 3DS and stick it up right next to some of these trailers and you'll see what I'm talking about though. But other than that, I can understand why the frustration is in there with some fans though, but it's just one of those things we have to understand is, even though we may not like something or we may not agree to what some people are doing, there's a correct way and there's a wrong way to actually address it. Now, I have seen some comments on Twitter where it's like, they were respectfully putting out their opinion and some of their thoughts of what they thought about there not being all the Pokemon within these games, which I can fully respect that. Constructive criticism goes a long way, but there's other people that's just been, just flat out annoying on every single Pokemon tweet, or even some of the Nintendo tweets, anything that's relating with Pokemon. All you saw was hashtag bring back National Dex, and just some of the rudest comments I ever saw. So there is that though. But out of anything that you always do, even in life in general, you always do it respectfully, and as long as you do it that way and you show your interest and stuff, the people that are actually making these games, I'm awfully sure they're going to be able to hear this. And speaking about hearing these things, even Masuda himself actually came out with a statement that he actually mentioned to all of the Pokemon fans, and it reads right here: "Thank you to all of our fans for caring so deeply about Pokemon. Recently, I shared the news that some Pokemon cannot be transferred to Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield. I read all your comments and appreciate your love and passion for Pokemon. Just like all of you, we are passionate about Pokemon, and each and every one of them is very important to us. After so many years of developing the Pokemon video games, this was a very difficult decision for me. I like to make one thing clear. Even if a specific Pokemon is not available in Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield, that does not mean it will not appear in future games. The world of Pokemon continues to evolve. The Galar region offers new Pokemon to encounter, trainers to battle, and adventures to embark on. We are pouring our hearts into these games. We hope you will look forward to joining us on this new journey." And that's from Masuda. So overall, we just have to always keep things in perspective whenever it comes to not just even playing any kind of game or just any kind of product that we want. Is that people are always putting their time, energy, and effort into making things for us as the fans, for us to enjoy. And at the end of the day, we do have to remember these games are actually meant for the primary reason for other kids, new generations of people playing these games. And that's their primary audience. And they're always keeping us veterans, thoughts into mind, because think about it from the perspective of somebody new that just got their Switch and that this will be their first Pokemon games. They're not going to really so much care as the every single Pokemon that we had in the past not being in the game, because they won't know them that much. They'll learn about some of them here in this game, maybe see some more within a potential third game, like a Pokemon Gun, for instance, although that wouldn't be true. That or potential Diamond and Pearl remakes that could be all coming out within this new generation. So that's just something to keep in mind with that. And overall, we just got to remember to keep our expectations in check. And we can't forget that now, after this region be over with, including alternate forms and everything, we'll be near about 1,000 Pokemon. With all their alternative forms and everything else, it'll be near 1,000 by the time this is over with. Trying to do this, we knew that at some point, there wasn't going to be probably at a point where generations down into the future where we have 3,000 Pokemon. I don't think it's going to be realistically fair to actually be able to put 3,000 Pokemon all within the same game though. And then if you look on the other side, some people might say, well, look at other games that put in so much data as to like these open world games, and they're able to put that much stuff into those games, then why in the world can they not just stick that many Pokemon up in there? Or forget about the story, forget about the aesthetics, or forget about the graphics. Some people even like sprites better. We didn't ask for this. Well, we got to think about it like this. It's a privilege to have all of these Pokemon. It was not necessarily a right that we should have every one of these Pokemon. They could have established this back in the past as saying, hey, Kanto, you go through the whole gameplay, Kanto, get Kanto Pokemon. When Gold and Silver came out, hey, you only catch Johto Pokemon. When Ruby and Sapphire came out, you only catch Hoenn. It was a blessing and a gift that we actually got to keep carrying some of these Pokemon all throughout time. It's not like they're saying we were going to forget that all these other Pokemon will exist, but they said that they were going to actually incorporate whichever old Pokemon seemed to fit the region the best and include them in that game. So if, for example, a Muck does not make it into this game, maybe it will potentially make it into the Sinnoh remakes. We never know. And they were talking about potentially, as I said it earlier, potentially adding Pokemon into other spin-off games, including stuff within the home map, and maybe actually having more compatibility with doing stuff with your Pokemon that are actually staying in home. So until we hear more details, we can't just blindly say, hey, y'all need to do this, or why are y'all doing this? We still need to hear a bit more information about their future plans with everything. And even though they're probably still thinking about how they're going to lay this stuff out, a roadmap would have been nice. But overall, we have to take what we have right now and do everything in a respectful manner. And speaking about graphics, I know some people aren't super impressed with the graphics that are in this game, but we also have to remember, hey, this is the Pokemon Company's first Pokemon game that they're actually bringing as a new generation. And typically, we always know that for the first new generation Pokemon game, they always typically look rougher. Like if you look at X and Y, you can see that game looks visually a little bit more rough than if we were to go and look at, for example, Sun and Moon, which I thought actually was like one of the cleanest looking games that is technically on the 3DS. So I think, and this is one other thing I wanted to talk about as well, is going into the future of making future Pokemon games. I think Game Freak needs to potentially spread out and actually ask for third-party help. Because if you look at other video game companies nowadays, like Nintendo doesn't always make every single one of their IPs within one of their first-party studios. They go to other people to potentially make some of their other ideas that they have. Like, for example, Astral Chain is a brand new Nintendo IP, and they're actually having Platinum Games make it, stuff like that. Or potentially like Luigi's Mansion 3 with Next Level Games, asking them to actually help make that game, things like that. And I think with Pokemon being such a media franchise as it is right now, and people always say, hey, they got all the money, they can do it. Well, I think some of it is, Game Freak is a tad bit stubborn because they like to do all their stuff in-house though. But I think they're noticing that they're about to get to the point where they have such a big franchise on their hands that it's going to be hard for them to lift it and do it up on their own. So I'm thinking, hey, if they have some outside help, start making their games with, Unreal Engine 4 instead of making like their own engine to run the game, stuff like that, I think that can actually help them in the long run. And it's just little things like that that helps to go into the planning effort, because you also got to think about this. Some people say, well, why don't you just delay the game? Well, you can't necessarily delay the game because this is such a big media franchise that not only the games are effective, but the Pokemon cards, all of the merchandise, the anime, etc., they're all built upon having this new generation always release every 3 years, which they kind of locked themselves into after it got so popular that they kind of had to keep this kind of flow going in order to pick up all of that revenue. So they kind of already got themselves stuck within this 3 years, so it doesn't allow them to have a lot of time to develop. But being able to seek outside help, I think that actually will help, improve some of the conditions that they are in already. So then who knows, into the future we may be able to have up to like maybe 70 or 80% of all Pokemon maybe at some future point. And also, let's not always forget that with, every single new generation that comes out, they're usually always, for the most part, with the exception of X and Y, because there was no Pokemon Z, usually they will always introduce a third entry game, and we don't know necessarily if they will actually allow you to have more Pokemon in that game than, so to say, for Sword and Shield. So that's also another thing we have to also keep in mind though. But overall, that's pretty much like my overall take on that hot topic of hashtag bring back National Dex stuff. But I'm also curious to hear about y'all. So in the comment section down below, just let me know what all y'all think about this recent news with Masuda saying, unfortunately, they're not going to be able to add in every single Pokemon. We do not know if there's going to be future update patches or anything like that, or any updates in general though. And that still has yet to be determined or announced. So we also got to keep that in mind though as well though. But yeah, that's all I got for my topic for today. And just make sure to subscribe to my channel if you hadn't already, where I just talk about anything from gaming to anime news and anything else like that though. So I'll catch y'all on whatever video I make next. So see y'all.